Like and subscribe right now, or you're gonna have terrible luck for the next week. Is there a prison on Earth that can't be escaped? From a law enforcement perspective, the answer will be affirmative. No one's getting out of a supermax prison, not until, one way or the other, their time is up. But from the perspective of a daring jailbreak mastermind, escape is always an option. Hello and welcome to another episode of 100M, where we'll be counting down our picks for the 10 greatest prison escapes. Number 10. Stalag Luft 3 War Camp, Mass Escape. Tom, Dick, and Harry. Those were the codenames of the 3 tunnels that would lead prisoners out of Stalag Luft 3 War Camp to their freedom in an ambitious mass escape plan dubbed the Great Escape. Ambitious because the Stalag Luft 3 POW camp was reckoned to be Germany's hardest prison to escape from, and the deployment of seismograph microphones around the perimeter of the camp made it almost impossible for any tunneling activities to go unnoticed. Still, an escape committee was formulated, mainly made up of American airmen led by RAF squadron leader Roger Bushell. Over 600 prisoners were involved in the tunneling work, which took more than a whole year of construction, by which time most of the prisoners involved in the plan had been transferred to other camps, shrinking the number of potential escapees to just about 200 prisoners. The escape attempt began on the first cloudy, moonless night, but only 76 men emerged from the other side. Escapee number 77 was spotted by a German sentry as he was crawling out the hatch, a blunder that led to the recapture of 73 of the escapees. Number 9. PORTLAOISE Prison, Irish Republican Army prisoners. Historically, there have been multiple successful escape attempts by IRA prisoners held at PORTLAOISE prison, but the escape attempt in the summer of 1974, orchestrated by 19 Republican prisoners, was perhaps the biggest and the most intriguing escape in the history of the penal system. The 19 Republicans were part of 120 prisoners who had been transferred to the prison from Mount Joy and the KONIGSTEIN camp following an escape attempt from those facilities. PORTLAOISE prison was more secure than the former, and escaping from here was deemed nearly impossible. Yet the Republican prisoners began cooking up an escape scheme no sooner had they set foot into the new facility. By mid-August 1974, the actual escape plan was initiated, and 19 prisoners serving the longest terms were selected to be the first to move out. Number 8. The Gulag, Anton Iwanowski. The Gulag was a system of Soviet labor camps designed to detain Russia's prisoners of war, as well as civilians who were deemed problematic to the political regime. Life in the Gulag was meant to be unbearably harsh. Prisoners were overworked, whatever little food rations they received were few and far between, and they had to bear with the most extreme of poor living conditions. Tight security measures in the camps, coupled with the unforgiving terrains and harsh weather conditions, made the gulags practically impossible to escape. One man did manage to escape, however. In 1945, Anton Iwanowski made a daring run for it, journeying through a treacherous 1,350 miles to his freedom. The Russian troops didn't make it easy for him, though. They chased him down, blocked all access roads, and even shot at him whenever they spotted him. He spent 3 months on the run, dodging the brutal troops before he eventually made it to the relative safety of Poland. Number 7. Dongbu Police Holding Cell, Choi Gap Bok. When the head of a theft ring you're holding in a detention cell is a yoga master, there better not be enough space between the iron bars to fit the skull. Unfortunately for the Dongbu police station in Daegu, South Korea, this lesson was all too surreal, and even the CCTV footage showing how one detainee managed to squeeze through an extremely small food slot was enough to quell suspicions. There were 3 officers on duty when the contortionist fugitive broke out, squeezed out, of his holding cell and fled south into a remote mountain in Cheongdo. Number 6. KONIGSTEIN Castle Prison, General HENRI GIRAUD. German officials believed the KONIGSTEIN castle to be inescapable until one captured French general, HENRI GIRAUD, figured out a way to make it out. The French general had already escaped a German prison camp before, and his captors were convinced that the castle prison would keep the problematic general in. Little did they know that his long-term plan to escape had already begun long before he transferred to the secure fortress. It all started when they allowed him to offer classes, given his expertise on the battlefield. Being a privileged prisoner, he was able to secretly get his hands on a map of the castle. He started putting together a twine rope as he was memorizing the possible escape routes. And finally, on April 17, 1942, General HENRI GIRAUD descended 150 feet off wall and cliff faces to the ground below in broad daylight and managed to jump onto a passing train to his freedom. Number 5. Devil's Island, Henri Charrière. The Devil's Island was an infamous penal colony located in French Guiana, home to the worst French criminals and political or military traitors. Prisoners who were guests here did not live long enough to serve out their full sentences. As a matter of fact, most of the prisoners were sent to the penal colony on a life sentence or were on death row. It was a nightmare island dreaded by even the toughest hardcore criminals. Its remote location at the open sea made it impossible for any Michael Scofield wannabe to escape. There were multiple unsuccessful escape attempts, but 2 lucky guys did manage to make it out, alive. The second escape attempt, masterminded by Henri Charrière and Sylviane, even received the most publicity, and their daring feats even described in the film adaptation called Papillon. Number 4. Black Dolphin, Alexandrov. This was considered Russia's most secure prison, with a guard-to-inmate ratio of almost 2 to 1 and checks every 15 minutes of every day. Besides the high fortified walls and wide-angle security cameras at every corner of the prison, the levels of security at the Black Dolphin are staggering, and the prison is located in a remote area with no highways, no railroads, and no towns or villages nearby. Escape was considered impossible, and release was unheard of. Only the toughest and most dangerous prisoners were guests here. Most inmates were serving a life sentence or more, and as such, the only way out of the prison was in a body bag. In 2016, however, the maximum security prison reported its first ever escape. Apparently, the escapee, Alexandrov, was serving a 5-year sentence for robbery, not a criminal that fit the profile of inmates you'd find at Black Dolphin, something that raised doubts as to whether the escape ever did take place in the first place. Number 3. ALCATRAZ Federal Penitentiary, the Anglin brothers and Frank Morris. Also known as The Rock, this maximum security federal penitentiary on Alcatraz Island, California, was designed to keep in only the most hardened of criminals. It's known as the world's most impenetrable island prison, guarded with only the most highly trained prison wardens who have, on several occasions, demonstrated their aptitude for anticipating even the most genius escape attempts and nipping them in the bud, as it were. That's not to say that no one ever escaped from the prison. No, many prisoners did manage to break out, but they just ended up drowning or freezing to death while crossing the frigid San Francisco Bay after leaving the island. To this day, the Anglin brothers and Frank Morris remain the only prisoners to have escaped Alcatraz and actually made it across alive. The daring escape took place on June 11, 1962, and the 3 were presumed dead, having somehow been claimed by the Bay. But a letter sent to the San Francisco police in 2013 claimed that the 3 Alcatraz escapees made it across, and that one of them, the author of the letter, was still alive.
Now it's time for today's best pick.
Is this the most genius prison break or what? Let's find out more about it, shall we? Number 2. Altiplano Maximum Security Prison, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. How difficult can it be to keep a notorious and powerful criminal behind bars? Well, if you know anything about Joaquin Guzman Loera, better known by the alias El Chapo, then you know better than to detain him at a laxed penal facility. As such, Altiplano Prison was the best choice to hold him up. A maximum security facility deemed to be the best of the best in all of Mexico's prison system, but somehow El Chapo did manage to break out. The notorious drug lord is said to have used his influence and abundant wealth to bribe his way out of the prison. He had a mile-long, well-ventilated, and abundantly lit tunnel built from right under his cell all the way to a construction site outside the prison wall. And finally, when it was time to escape, El Chapo used a motorcycle to ride through the tunnel to his freedom.
Before we move on, I've got a little challenge for you that'll take 5 seconds to complete. So here's the deal. You just leave a like on this video, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell, and you will get 25 years of amazing luck. Try it really works.
Number 1. ADX Florence, Inescapable. No one has ever escaped the ADX, the only supermax in the US reputed for being an escape-proof fortress. Inmates spend 23 hours locked up in their prison cells and will serve their entire sentence without ever seeing the sun or moon, an aspect that earned the supermax the cryptonym Dark House for prisoners. As expected, the Administrative Maximum Facility, ADX, was primarily designed to detain high-profile criminals who are deemed too great a national security risk to be held at the maximum security prisons. Most guests at the facility are either domestic terrorists, gang or mob leaders, and double agents. The Forbidding Prison just recently received a new guest, the notorious drug kingpin of Mexico, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. It will be interesting to find out if he'll manage to break out of this one, seeing as he put the Mexican penal system to shame after escaping twice from maximum security prisons in the country. You made it to the end of the video, but hey, if you enjoyed it, be sure to smash the like icon and leave a comment. Your engagement is what keeps our curiosity going. We have lots of fantastic videos that you will enjoy. You can start by checking out the 2 already showing up on your screen right now. Keep it 100.